Hey AP Language, I would like to talk to you for a little bit here about the new rubric, but first I want to emphasize the fact that in the assignment you have all of these links to helpful resources, and if you're not clicking on those, you're missing out on some key pieces that will really help you along the way. So if you're feeling stuck, go back to those resources. I don't think it's anything you haven't seen before, but go back to those to help you along in this process. So I've updated the rubric. It's the same as it was before, what I showed you in class, although now it has the specific categories of how you get what grade. So each category is worth 25 points. There are 4 categories. The first one here is about combining narrative and reflection to communicate a sophisticated understanding of your identity and experience to the reader while avoiding the obvious and cliche. And so really, this all boils down to how good is it. But if you want to really get a sense of how I think about this when I grade and how all your AP language teachers do, you can take a look at these comments underneath. So for example, in A, a 25 out of 25 would be somebody who expertly uses a combination of narrative and reflection to communicate a sophisticated understanding of their identity and experience to the reader in a way that elevates the form to its fullest potential, avoiding the obvious and cliche completely. That's hard to do. That's a high bar. I think probably a goal should be to effectively use a combination of those, occasionally maybe relying on obvious or cliche, but try to get rid of them as much as possible. Not that you shouldn't shoot for the A, but to recognize that sometimes you won't even realize when you're having those moments. Push yourself to see wherever you are on this scale and go one higher and one higher. And if you're like, man, my essay is pretty effective, a couple obvious cliches and obvious bits there, see if you can cut those out, take it to that next level. So kind of shoot for each piece of it. But right now, if you're sort of like, God, I'm not sure where this is going, I've just got a lot of comments on a lot to do, you can't get it from there to here immediately. You're going to have to revise to kind of keep taking it up this scale. Next, there's how well does the writer use specific details and imagery to immerse the reader in some aspect of their experience, identity, and point of view. So this is specific details and imagery. Next up, we have inventing a structure on the material. How is it organized? And finally, do you use the language itself, the nuts and bolts of word choice? If I were to just to give you a sense of what a C- is on all of these, this is a one that just pretty much struggles to communicate any understanding of identity experience and relies way too heavily on obvious or cliche. A C- on this part is one that almost entirely lacks specific details and imagery to immerse the reader in some aspect of their experience. This one, the writer does not invent or impose a purposeful structure. It's just kind of all there. And this last one, the writer use of the language itself, the nuts and bolts, word choice, syntax, grammar, mechanics, mostly fails to communicate your meaning. With the language providing a barrier to this understanding, there's multiple errors and it's hard to understand. So you can kind of see the full scale and range here. You don't want to listen to me talk about all of these, but I just want to point out to you that I have written these much more detailed explanations of how you get each grade, so you can kind of get a sense of where that is. And then lastly, at the bottom here, your post-writing analysis. This tells you how to get a good grade on that. Thoughtfully and thoroughly answer the 4 questions here. This is not going to go in the same part of the grade book as the essay. The essay is 100 points, 30% of your grade. This separately, 20 points in the writing process. Think of this as like a journal entry. As long as you're detailed and thoughtful, it's good. This is a formal final piece of writing that you've been working on for a long time now. Please let me know if you have questions about this rubric or if you catch a typo. I put it together today, but I hope this is helpful to give you a sense of what you're trying to do with this essay.